So event 2 was Spartan's Fear. So the event was starting with a 160-meter Husafel bag carry at 80 kgs, moving into 7 rope climbs, then a 1 mile run, 4 laps, 400 meters, back into 7 rope climbs, and then again finishing off with a 160-meter Husafel bag carry at 80 kgs.
Which is basically like a gravestone sandbag.
Yeah. And we did this at Coastal. We ran a simulation similar to it, Ant and I. And there was already fear going into it, right?
That fear.
The fear was a sandbag. The sandbag for me is quite heavy. 80 kgs is 10 kgs more than my body weight. So I already was afraid of the event. And that's
Can I just pause you there? What were you afraid of? How hard the bag was going to be, or the fact that the bag was hard for you and therefore what that would mean to your placing?
How hard, I'd say both. How hard the bag is going to be. And I knew that's just going to drop me down and I'm not going to be, probably going to be in the bottom half. It's going to be a drastic difference from event 1. And when you start off your competition in 11th place after event 1 and you see yourself, in a higher heat, even though they didn't reorder the heats, but you see yourself in event 2, you're the last one to finish the sandbag. I still stuck to the strategy of wanting to go 30 meters, and then go 20 to finish it off. But when we did it in simulation, we did a 70 kg a D ball. And the 80 kgs was definitely a big game changer, but it was easier to hold the Husafel bag compared to the D ball. I will say that. But when I did get to the rope climbs, I was now no longer present in the moment. I got pulled out. The first 7 rope climbs was a shit show. Because
it was like you'd forgotten how to climb a rope.
Yeah, we went, you taught me, how to descend from the rope. We practiced that we were going to be 2 clamps, touch the metal V-bar, and then 1 drop and then jump down. I was all over the place because I got to the rope last in my heat, and that's all I was thinking about. That I wasn't even thinking about what I had to do. And I wasn't even doing 2 clamps. I was doing 2, and the reason why was I wasn't reaching after the first clamp. I wasn't reaching all the way up. My hands were half shortened, and I only realized that when I was reflected on the run. I was like, why wasn't I able to touch after 2 clamps? So I was all over the place, and I was just thinking, I just didn't want to be there. I was like, okay, it's just a 25-minute AMRAP. Let's just see how far I can get through. I was already coming up with, instead of focusing on the task at hand or like what I needed to do, I was coming up with excuses. Or, okay, we know this is going to be a bad event. I was already over in my head. Like I already mentally checked out again, which I did not.
Isn't it funny though, that coming into the weekend, because you've done things like the CrossFit Open before, you had said explicitly a number of times that placing is not important, that you're just going to focus on your strategy and do your thing. And it's so funny because I think it's important that everyone hears this, because we're all going to experience it if you're ever going to do a competition, that you had a good event, right? So what we mean by that is like you had a result that was probably exceeded your expectations. Yeah. Suddenly you have a high placing, and how that changes your mindset now, right? Because it creates a mindset that I need to stay here. Like I want to be here, and it feels good to do well in an event, right? We have this like feeling that people are now seeing us as a good athlete.
Yeah.
Right. And we're recognized as like, oh shit, this guy's come out of nowhere. Like, and for you, it's kind of like, the ego is getting a bit inflated. Yeah. And then you start operating out of fear of throwing away that strong start. Yeah. Right. So you're operating out of fear rather than in event 1, you are operating out of like enjoyment and creativity and this like hunger to want to attack the workout. When you start to operate out of fear, knowing that you don't want to drop down and move, it completely changes the approach and the mindset that you then, that you go into that workout with. And then, like you said, workout 1, having, meticulously planned out the process that was going to allow you to execute the workout and have a great outcome. Workout 2 was all about the outcome. It was like, I can't be last. Now I'm last. Now I'm doing bad. And it's not about, okay, how do I climb a rope? How do I carry a bag? Where do I break the bag? How do I pace the rope? How do I pace the run? See, even on the run, thinking about the rope climb is like, you're not actually being present on the run then, right?
I agree.
So you're kind of like, almost those dangerous moments where you can almost like break into a walk because you're forgetting what you're actually supposed to be doing, right? Which is kind of what happened.
Yeah, I was almost walking. That's probably the slowest I've ever been on a run. I think my run took me 10 minutes, and that was like a 2:30 split for 400 meters. And I don't think I've ever been slower than that. I'd say that definitely two contributors. The first contributor being I wasn't mentally present. I was coming up with excuses, and I was already rationalizing in my head as to, if Ant gave me shit, or if you asked me how that went, I was already thinking of what I'd say to you guys, versus focusing on actually just running. That's the first thing.
Yeah, pulling yourself back and getting yourself back in the race.
Yeah, I was worried about what others would think and what they would say and what I was going to say to everyone else when they asked me how the event felt, versus actually just focusing and running.
Doing the thing. Yeah.
And the second thing, of course, apart from the mental side, I was actually physically quite beat up, in the sense that Husafel bag, affected my breathing. I was breathing really hard. I've never felt that way on a run, and my lower back and my hamstring were just blown, just from the way I was carrying the bag. So definitely made it uncomfortable. But I guess if I was more mentally present, that would have definitely eased the physical difficulties.
Yeah, I kind of want to fast forward a little bit through
Yeah.
your weekend, because the next event you had a sprint, which you then executed exactly like the swim, like deeply present, deeply focused, knew it was something you could do well at. You're a fast runner, and you crushed it and you executed really well. Then the next event, I believe, was Maria.
Yeah.
Right, and then we basically had a repeat of the sandbag workout, right, where it was like, again, you have a good event in your eyes, a bad event in your eyes, a good event, and suddenly you're back on cloud 9.
Yeah.
You want to retain those winning ways and show the world that this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
And then you have this workout, which in your head you had told yourself was going to be damage limitation.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, I always encourage people to move away from that language, even if, yes, the actual fact is this is going to be a hard workout for you relative to your field of competition, and you need to just do your best. I mean, to be honest, in competition, you got to do your best in every single event. But yes, you might slip down the leaderboard, but the moment you start telling yourself, this is a bad workout for me, or this is damage limitation, again, you start operating out of a place of fear, and versus out of a place of creativity and, and hunger. And, when you're playing it safe is very different to attacking. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like we see it in sports all the time. The team that plays safe is often the team that starts capitulating and not playing good, whatever the sport is, versus the team that's out to win. They're playing a very different form of the sport.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to see you flip-flop between those two extremes back and forth in your first 4 events, because it was like two really big extremes, right? So I think the event that I was most impressed with